Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear friends, colleagues, it's really a pleasure in this foggy and cold morning to welcome you here at the National Palace of Culture, to welcome you at our conference named Futuris, meaning looking at the future. First, allow me to apologize on behalf of the Vice Prime Minister Tomislav Donchev, who is basically leading the process on developing research and innovation and our future programming period. But you can imagine in the end of the year, this is the last month of the budget year, and unfortunately we have also very annoying bureaucratic duties of all kinds of signing papers at the end of the year. But his team is already here, and later we will have also the pleasure of my colleagues from the Center of Coordination Unit at the Structure Funds to join us too. Secondly, before to give the floor to Mr. Kilanov, who will present on behalf of Maria Gabriel her thoughts and address to all of us. Let me already now thank to all my friends, colleagues, and researchers that travel all around Europe to be today with us. We have fantastic keynote speakers this today, so thank you very much. Thank you also to the European Commission, to Adam Tyson, who made it possible to be with us today. This is very important because in my personal and professional view, we have to show that Bulgaria is a country, could be a platform, could be a research and innovation hub that not only is waiting and observing from the periphery of Europe, but could turn the periphery of Europe in a hotspot for discussions on the future of the research infrastructures and overall for the research and innovation ecosystem in Europe. So I believe that the most important today is exactly this international touch, and our colleagues from all around Europe that made it possible to come and to share their views today with us. So first, before opening the conference, and to start with the keynote speech, please allow me first to invite Mr. Kilanov, who is from the representation of the European Commission in Bulgaria. Please.
So, dear colleagues, as the representative of the European Commission in Sofia, a few words from me, after which I will deliver the address by Commissioner Gabriel. Indeed, as the Deputy Minister said, we are in a very busy period. As you know, since 1st of December we have also a fully functioning European Commission, a new college that is ready to go, and I can assure you that on the Commission side, in addition to moving a lot of boxes between floors, there is also a lot of work on substance going on. As you know, President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has committed to deliver quite a few specific legislative proposals in the first 100 days of her mandate. So all this is coming our way, and we should be prepared, and events like this help us prepare and then be ready to take advantage of the new opportunities that are going to come. For the first one, the European Green Deal, is actually coming tomorrow. So stay tuned for this one, and it links very well, I think, also with this event, because it's exactly the innovation and the new technologies that are going to make the European Green Deal possible. This is from me, and now I give you the address by Commissioner Gabriel. Dear Deputy Minister, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I am truly delighted to address you on such an important topic as research and innovation, and I'm very sorry not to be with you personally in this wonderful occasion. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Europe is facing great challenges we have to ensure unprecedented ecological, economic and social transitions. We have to embrace fully the benefits of the accelerating digital transformation. We must make sustainability competitive and competitiveness sustainable. Research and innovation will play a crucial role in achieving this, providing new knowledge and transformative solutions, and so setting the direction for our efforts. Europe is a scientific powerhouse, producing almost 1/3 of the world's best science, with just 7% of the world's population. We are proud to have the largest publicly funded cross-border research and innovation program in the world. We must now build on all this potential, stimulating our scientists and innovators to imagine, invent and develop the best solution to research and to enable us to reach our goals. And while doing so, I want to make sure that nobody is left behind. This is what Horizon Europe is designed to do. Though its new missions and with the help from the European Innovation Council, it will foster the entire research and innovation value chain, from curiosity-driven science to transforming discoveries into new products and services. Stronger European partnerships will mobilize the joint forces of public and private investment to address commonly agreed objectives linked to the specific European or global challenges. Horizon Europe will provide new opportunities for knowledge, the circulation of knowledge across Europe, the strengthening of the European research area, and supporting the modernization and reform of the EU research and innovation system. To make this ambitious program a reality and to deliver the impact we expect, we must make sure it is adequately funded. This is my immediate goal. It must be our shared goal for the next few months. I'll count on all of you on this. I also count on you, especially at this conference, because without Europe's research infrastructures, none of what we aim for will be possible. The quality of our research infrastructures determines the limits of our capacities to produce new knowledge and to find new solutions. Our landscape of infrastructures in energy, the environment, physics, health, social scientists, and data management have been the foundation of our scientific success. Our research infrastructures are true knowledge hubs, bringing together some of the smartest people on the continent: scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs. They enable open science and the open innovation to break the frontiers of knowledge and tackle societal challenges across all spheres of our lives. They have also played a visible role in the integration of Europe, fostering the upscaling of scientific excellence across the continent and helping us to create an area of trust for collaboration across Europe and globally. But we should not be complacent. We need to remain at the cutting edge of technology. We need to direct our efforts more clearly towards tackling global challenges. And we need to create real synergies among the European structural and investment funds and Horizon Europe. This would enable us to unlock the potential in all EU regions. A good example of such synergies here in Bulgaria is the recently launched teaming project GATE, with the aim to establish a center of excellence focusing on big data, providing advanced infrastructure supporting open innovation. Examples like this show that the cooperation between Europe and its member states can bring real benefits on the ground. We must ensure that all these investments bring maximum impact, not only to the research communities, but also for our people and the society at large. We must reach out and involve citizens more closely in the search for answers to those global challenges, because in most cases, they are the ones who will have to deliver the change. Research infrastructures are uniquely placed to do this, and we must support their efforts for outreach and education. Horizon Europe and I personally will be there to help. I wish you a successful conference, and I thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Kilyanov, and basically I promised the Commissioner Gabriel that I will brief her with our ideas and results after this conference. That's why maybe during the day you will, if you hear me again after now my speech, that's why I will talk very often, not exactly that this is conference, but this is a platform and discussion, because I really hope that today we will fit more ideas and maybe we'll find some solutions. We will address some important issues, but also we will use this discussion and this platform today, this network, in order also to support the Commissioner in her new ambition job the next 5 years. Maybe most of you are not paying attention on the title of this conference, but of course it was very well thought in advance, and of course there is a little bit annoying political idea behind it, from S3 to go to S4. That's why all the principles we address in this conference basically are synergy, sustainability, smart specialization, and social impact. Indeed, we were looking a little bit for this effect, because it always attracts attention. But let me be serious now. Of course, these are 4 principles which are very important in our current job, and this is not only the job of the politicians and the funding organizations, but this is also the job of the researchers and managers of research performing organizations and universities, and also the Commission and all other partners. Of course, planning now the new program period and talking about where and how we should invest more than €1 billion for research and innovation under the structural funds, it can't go without thinking what will be the synergies with Horizon Europe, the most ambitious research program in the world. We are also talking for synergies because we are trying to draw lessons and to learn what we did well this program period, what we didn't do, we were maybe scared to do it the last 10 years, or we were just not able to do it, or we didn't have the knowledge. But basically, what we absolutely share and agree all of us, and this we also see, of course, that have been agreed on European level among our European leaders, is that the cohesion policy, the structural funds, have their really crucial role in bringing capacity and basically breaking this innovation gap, or let's say closing this innovation gap that is existing in the European Union. That's why for the new program period, basically the goal is to have more ambitious structural funds, but also to focus them on knowledge-intensive sectors. More and more we are talking for economy, for competitiveness economy, for economy that is developing added value for today and tomorrow, but also for economy and industry that is basically addressing the social challenges and very often the challenges and problems in the society, not only society overall, but of each citizen in this society. So this makes it all complicated when one is planning what to do and how to program. Of course, we have usually all the framework, the program, we know how to write beautiful words, and we have a lot of ideas. We can, of course, copy-paste some already successful programs around the world, but is this really useful? At the end of the day, I don't think so, because in my current job, also in my previous job, I see that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter you're in research or in administration, basically you depend on the people. So the people are changing, the administration is changing as the researchers are changing, or the people in industry. And basically it's amazing how much efforts we should put every day in order to train, to get aware, and basically to bring up and to scale up the capacity of all the stakeholders in the systems, including the industry and the business, who very often are addressing the problem that they don't have access to knowledge, or they are not aware what are the opportunities for research and innovation in Bulgaria and in Europe. That's why I started with the synergies, but I went with the social impact. Basically, I was quite motivated to invest in this conference exactly because of this lack of coherent knowledge of understanding of the role of research and innovation. Because very often you will hear on the media, or you will hear from politicians, from leaders that they talk for industry, for competitive industry, or you will hear businessmen who are saying, we have the opportunity, we have the money, but we don't know who is doing research, or why to use it, or how to use it. And I believe that the best example is to show the society and the industry that the research infrastructures basically are the main ingredient, basically the main pillar on which we should step and develop around the research infrastructures, this ecosystem that we need. And of course, how to show better what we have to the industry, and then together all the research infrastructures, research centers that we have in Bulgaria. And I have to tell you that I'm here from September last year, but for the first time in the room I see basically from all the research centers we funded from the structural funds, and from all the research infrastructures we funded from the ministry. I see representatives in one room. It's amazing because I think I know almost everybody. Maybe you are not a lot. Maybe we imagine that in this room today should be 2,000, 3,000 people. This is not possible and this is not necessary. Today, basically, for me, it's important exactly with those of you who spent a lot of efforts to invest, to create this ecosystem, but also I see many of you who are basically connecting Bulgaria to the rest of the world, to the European research infrastructure roadmap. You are in many important networks in Europe. For me, it's important to have you here because basically the design of our new policies and ideas till 2030 can't happen only behind the walls of the Ministry of Education and Science or the implementing agency for the structural funds. Another unique thing that is happening today, and I think it's unique for Bulgaria. Of course, this is happening in other member states. It's happening for many years, but anyhow, we should be proud to showcase today to our friends and colleagues around the world that together, basically, we can showcase how we spend structural funds on research. There is a small exhibition downstairs. Basically, we wanted to invite all funded centers of excellence and centers of competence with structural funds to show that indeed one of the main principles of the cohesion policy should be to address this research and innovation gap in Europe. And I will finish with this because I was brought today from one journalist on the radio. Basically, she apologized that she will compare research with sport, and in fact, I was not offended. I even like it. Although I know many of you and many researchers, some of them are nose up and they don't like comparisons with sport, but I personally like it. So indeed, one thing is missing in this conference in the title, and I'll explain why. It's missing internationalization, but it's missing in the title because it is per se internationalized. And the researchers, the policymakers, the businesses, my colleagues, my administration, shouldn't have any doubt that what we do and invest on national level should be Bulgarian national or regional. Yes, indeed, it has a strong impact on regions, on the Bulgarian citizens, on to address challenges of the day. But when we are talking to investments, crucial investments in research infrastructures, we should be open to the world and we should be international. And this is now here the catch and also the link with the sport. Indeed, I believe that if you want to be the best, if you want to participate in networks, to open, so to speak, the closed clubs in Europe and to play with the best one, with the excellent one in research, we have to have the good equipment, we have to know how to play with the best, we have to teach from them, we should learn from them. That's why the investment of the Ministry of Education and Science are strongly focused on providing opportunities of Bulgaria to join ERICS, to join more European research infrastructures, and of course I'm pretty satisfied as a politician on my not very high level, but still that last week the government voted for the first time, 22 million from the national budget to safeguard our unique research infrastructures and basically to provide our participation in many European research infrastructures. Last year we provided 10 million, this year we double it. This is also very important to show synergy between European funds but also national funding. But we can increase the national funding only, of course, as I said, we compete with the best. Otherwise, of course, it's very difficult for the politicians to prove why we should spend more money in research and innovation. And basically, this is my everyday fight. From now onwards, you will hear a lot, and this conference is extremely important because till March, our ambition plan is to show the European Commission our first ideas, what we think and how we will develop our research and innovation ecosystem. We are very motivated to invest in a new agency for research and innovation that is based on the principles of high standard peer review, of all linkages with Horizon Europe, and of course building a strong capacity and consultancy on participation in Horizon Europe. But these are just small elements. Without the idea of where to invest, where to focus the money in research, and without uniting all of you here in this room, for me, my colleagues, it will be very difficult again to prove why we need research but not innovation, and why these two are basically one world. Unfortunately, there is still a debate where we should invest, in innovation or research. I hope today our great panelists and also the representatives we have from our competence centers and centers of excellence will showcase that these are the two sides of one coin, and this debate is basically not with added value. The debate should be how to link research and innovation with the expectations of citizens and with the expectations of the industry for the future. So thank you once again that you had the patience to listen to me, and now immediately allow me to invite and to share with you that today is also important symbolic day for Bulgaria when we're talking for international science, because today, after more than 10 years, I'm feeling a bit ashamed, but also proud that we took this important decision basically to restore our membership in the International Union for Applied Physics. And I'm very happy that today we have the President of the International Union today with us. And let's open this conference with one keynote speech, maybe a bit philosophical, but let's open our mind and ideas listening to Professor Spiro. Thank you very much, Professor Spiro.
Dear Deputy Minister of Science and Education in Bulgaria, dear representative of the European Commission in Bulgaria, dear colleagues, thank you very much for inviting me to give this keynote address. I am here also, as you mentioned, to celebrate the physics community of Bulgaria rejoining the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics. We will have a signature ceremony just after this session. I think this is an important event for Bulgaria and also for the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics that I will present just after this introduction. I will also mention that IUPAC, this International Union, will celebrate its centenary in 2022. And at this, we are using this opportunity to promote, to push for an international year, which is relevant to what you said, of basic sciences, so sciences which are curiosity-driven, for sustainable development, to show that indeed you need both applied but also basic sciences curiosity-driven. This is a way to increase the pool of knowledge in which a future generation can use for their development. So I will describe this initiative, which I think is very relevant to this meeting. And I will also mention that I was a former president of CERN Council, and Bulgaria is a member of CERN, which I think is a model infrastructure, which can be also relevant for this meeting. So let's start first by describing a little bit what is IUPAP, the International Union. Its mission is to assist in the worldwide development of physics, to foster international cooperation in physics, and to help in the application of physics towards solving problems of concern to humanity. You see, it's pure and applied physics, which means that we are trying to get both hands. Further IUPAP principles are shown on this slide. Foster openness and inclusiveness in physics, promote free circulation of physicists, ensure integrity and credibility, promote physics as a building block of innovation and multidisciplinary research, promote physics as an essential tool for development and for sustainability. So you see, this is clearly also connected to this International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. The present members of IUPAP are listed here, and we are happy to see that there are newcomers. Bulgaria, that will have the signing ceremony just after the session. From here, from Sofia, I'm flying this night, tonight, to Egypt, where Egypt will also rejoin IUPAP. Jordan did it recently, and Uruguay will soon be joined. We have also regional observers, like the European Physical Society, the American and the African and Asian Pacific Physical Societies. You can see here a map which shows you, first in red, the founding members a century ago, in 1922. Then you see in green the present members added to the founding members, and in blue you see the new comers, new countries, Uruguay, Egypt, Jordan, and Bulgaria. So IUPAP consists of commissions covering all fields of physics and even the interface between physics and the rest of sciences. For instance, we are very active on symbols and units in physics, but we are active in astroparticle physics. In fact, there are posters downstairs which shows the involvement of Bulgaria in astroparticle physics. So this is the interface with particle physics and astrophysics. We have also an astrophysics section. We have physics education, we have physics for development. We have all fields of physics, I mentioned, but also biological physics and chemistry physics. We are connected to neighboring unions, because there is not only the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics, you have the equivalent for chemistry, for biology, and we have connections with all these unions. And it would be probably very healthy that Bulgaria be part of these other unions. We have working groups which are more focused and for a given period of time, future accelerators, women in physics, communication in physics, high intensity lasers, also the gravitational waves, soft matter, and so on. And these working groups are very many times connected to the OECD, the Global Science Forum. Our main task is to organize the largest conference in all the fields of physics. The requirements are that it must be of scientific interest, worldwide attendance, generally 1,000 people, with no a priori restriction or difficulty to attend, and inclusiveness and diversity, again, is a must in these conferences. We are awarding Young Scientist Prize, which are very prestigious. I show you some projects in which we are involved, very strongly on the gender gap issue. Probably it is relevant here also in Bulgaria, how to measure it, how to reduce it. This is particularly true for physics and mathematics. So with the Mathematical Union, we are leading a project, Gender Gap in Science, with statistics and inquiries to understand what is happening in various countries. We are also trying to promote the utilization of light sources and crystallographic sciences to facilitate the enhancement of knowledge and improve the economic and social conditions in targeted regions of the world. These targeted regions are the Middle East. You know that in Jordan there is a light source already, an existing light source, Sesame, which is used by all the neighboring countries, including Iran, Israel, the Palestinian Authority, Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan. So we are trying to promote the same in Africa, in Latin America, and in Asia. And finally, I will spend more time on that. We are just now, so we started 2 years ago to promote this International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. So you see the list already of unions or partners which are behind this initiative. So the International Astronomical Union, International Mathematical Union, International Science Councils, the International Union of Biological Sciences, Chemistry, CERN, ICTP, which is the Theoretical Center of UNESCO in Trieste, European Physics Society, Institut de Recherche et Développement, JINR in Dubna, IUPAC is the leading union. You have a website, www.iybsd.org, that you can see. At the beginning, the title was International Year of Basic Sciences for Development, but when it was approved by the UNESCO General Conference recently in November, they wanted us to add sustainable development, which I think is okay. So we'll have to modify the logo, the website, but this is not a problem. Just cost a little bit and takes time. So let me describe this proposal that I am pushing for 2022 International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. The rationale, as I mentioned it at the very beginning of my presentation, is that the basic sciences, curiosity-driven sciences, are often not considered as they should deserve in the discussions concerning the societal, environmental, and economic development. Again, what I said is that we are building the pool of knowledge in which the future generations can use, which future generations can use for their development. And also we think that after the International Year of Physics, International Years of Chemistry, which happened a few years ago, of International Years of Mathematics, of astronomy, so in the last decade we had all these international years, crystallography, flight of the periodic table of elements, it is time to plan to have an International Year of Basic Sciences for it. 2022 would be a good time to celebrate this International Year, so I told you that this is the IUPAC Centenary, but it will be also the 100 years of Niels Bohr's Nobel Award, so the birth of quantum mechanics, many also important discoveries, 200 years of Brazil independence, but also, and last but not least, it will be just at the middle of the Sustainable Goals agenda of the United Nations, which extended from 2015 to 2030. So it could give a boost to the second part of this Sustainable Goals agenda. So examples that I can show, the web, maybe it is not known by so many people. The web was born at CERN. CERN is purely basic sciences from the needs of global collaboration for fundamental science. The success of Google, the second largest company in the world, comes from a brilliant mathematical IT. Artificial intelligence relies on statistical methods and will have an influence on all aspects of society. Cellular phones come from the discovery of transistors, integrated circuits, Wi-Fi astronomy spin-off developments. GPS accuracy is a spin-off of Einstein general relativity and the improvement in the accuracy of atomic clocks based on quantum technology. The discovery of DNA has revolutionized medicine. The Genome Project has opened the way to gene therapies. The development of innovative instrumentation for basic sciences has many impacts for health and developments, which are listed here. The rapid uptake of the generation and storage of renewable energy depends on advances in physics, chemistry, and material sciences. And finally, reductions in pollution and green chemistry rely on basic advances in chemistry. But this is not all, but it shows you some examples. The support for IYBSD is now very large. I showed it on my first slide, and more recently UNESCO has recommended it for proclamation by the United Nations. So it has to be proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly, hopefully at the end of next year. But it is already supported and recommended by the General Conference of UNESCO. So this is mentioned here, the resolution for the proclamation of the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable, they had a Sustainable Development in 2022, was adopted by the UNESCO Executive Board in October 2019 and the UNESCO General Conference in November 2019. It was also welcomed by the World Science Forum 2019 in Budapest, and it has to be proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly. The tentative list of topics are basic sciences and multicultural cultural dialogue, sciences for peace, basic sciences, education and human development, basic sciences and women, so statistics, empowering women, role models, basic sciences, innovation and economy, this is a triangle, basic sciences and life sciences, basic sciences and global challenges, basic sciences as a global public good, basic sciences and the sustainable development goals. Some events, so I told you already the centenary of IUPAC, probably in Geneva, where some can play a major role. We will certainly use the International Science Council regional offices and the UNESCO centers to organize events. And some possible resulting actions could be to institutionalize full implementation of open access publishing for all research papers connected to fundamental research. More generally, promote open science in all basic sciences, and open science, I know, is now a goal of the European Commission and of UNESCO. So certainly open science can be promoted during this year, because basic sciences are very much connected to open science action. Promote inclusive collaboration in fundamental research, teams from developed countries together with teams from developing countries, gender balance. Organize top-level events in developing countries with many side events. Promote training and education to basic sciences in developing countries. So just the steps. So these are the steps which were fixed 2 years ago when the idea was launched. 2018 formal recommendation by the International Basic Science Program of UNESCO. This is done now. 2019 formal approval by the General Conference of UNESCO, this is done. Enlarge the circle of unions and academies, this is in progress. 2020 approval by the UN General Assembly. 2021 detailed preparation of regional and international events. And 2022 International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. And certainly we can count very much on Bulgaria for all that, both to play a role in IUPAC and also to organize, to support this initiative of the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development, but also to organize events in the Balkan countries, for the Balkan countries, maybe in connection with all the Balkan countries, and in connection with Ukraine and Russia. This would be a way to show that basic sciences are there not only for development, but also for peace. Thank you very much.
Maybe later during the network. Thank you very much once again, Professor Spiru. You show some very simple examples, but they're very powerful and very often we forget about them. This is another idea that maybe we should address with our centers of excellence and centers of competence, exactly to provide such a simple for the researchers list of great solutions, but influence the politicians and the citizens basically is quite interesting. So thank you once again. And now let's kick off the conference with our first panel. This time I want to present our great participants in the panel because we have the honor to invite, where is Ani Projkova, Professor Projkova, my dear friend and advisor, and one of our members at S3. So Ani, we're in your hands, the floor is yours to present the first panel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here to open a conference long prepared and very deeply thought about this very important transition period for our research community from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. So my name is Anna Projkova. I'm professor at the Sofia University and have the honor to be the national delegate to the European Strategic Forum for Research Infrastructures and currently serving as a chair of one of the strategic working groups. So I would like only few moments to grasp your attention to this important first panel, because you know the first panel has the role to bring to the audience the whole picture of what is going on in the background, what is currently developing, what are the goals of the future, and the beautiful title of the conference, Infrastructures for the Future, are not just science fictions, although I would like audience to think about the research infrastructures as infrastructures ready for the future. So the first panel was composed following this idea of providing a complete picture of the developed and developing infrastructures. Dr. Adam Tyson, the head of research at Industrial Infrastructures and the General Director at Research and Innovation at the European Commission. He has a very thick portfolio of activities, not only the current activities, but what he has done for the Commission, for the United Kingdom, and for ourselves is an interesting story, but we can discuss it later. We have Dr. Sanna Sorvari-Sandet from the Meteorological Finnish Institute, who is the coordinator of ACTRIS. ACTRIS stands for Aerosol, Clouds, and Trace Gases Research Infrastructure. So that's the first infrastructure which I'm presenting to you, which is a distributed one, and we shall have the chance to talk a lot about distributed infrastructures, because these are the new trends for developing research in Europe.
and to add, Bulgaria is a member of this network. Then we have Professor Adrian Kurai. Yeah. He is from the Polytechnical University of Bucharest, a former Minister of National Education and Scientific Research, and currently he is a director at the Executive Agency for Higher Education, Research, Development and Innovation Funding in Romania. And Mr. Francesco Florindi, is correct, yeah? Who is the newly elected Strategy and Partnership Manager of the Distributed Research Infrastructure of Biobanks and Biomolecular Resources. That's for the first time I will mention BBMRI as abbreviation, and this is ERIC. ERIC stands for European Research Infrastructure Consortium, and the good news is that Bulgaria is part of this BBMR ERIC, and we have speaker later on to see how Bulgaria is working in this new environment. And please, when you go outside and look at the posters and presentations, note how many of newly funded research infrastructures in Bulgaria are distributed infrastructures. I personally work for one of those, which is the very first electronic infrastructure in the country. So now I give the floor to Adam to present, he will tell us how many minutes, his institution and his role.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna, and thank you to you and Karina for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here. Standing here now and being able to see the mural behind us is really quite distracting, because I would like to spend much more time looking at the mural than telling you all the things which are on my notes today. Really very inspiring place to be and to be able to speak to you. I'd like to thank also my colleague, Mr. Gulanov, for the introduction, for the words from the Commissioner. And I think there were a number of messages that she asked to be brought to the meeting today, which are extremely important in terms of setting the scene. And I'd like a little bit just to expand on those a little bit more, because I think they are important in terms of understanding where we want to go as the European Union in terms of our research and innovation agenda. And in particular, what we need to do with our research infrastructures at a European level, but also at national levels, and how we can support work at the national level as well. We've heard already that we're at a very important political moment in the European Union. We've just changed the College of Commissioners, came into office on the 1st of December, so it's all very new. But clearly things are already happening, and we heard already that the proposals for the European Green Deal will be presented tomorrow. And we're all very excited about that, because I think there's real potential for us to make a big difference to the way that we're working at a European level in order to combat climate change and the loss of biodiversity, and to limit environmental damage more generally. But of course the Green Deal is not the only priority of the new European Commission, and you probably would have seen that the new President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has set out 6 different priorities for her period as President of the Commission, so for the next 5 years. So in addition to the Green Deal, there is also an emphasis on the digital transition. How do we help Europe to make the transition to a more digital economy, and not just in the sense of how do we create the new technologies, but also how do we help society and the economy make that transition? How do we make sure that it's a transition which works for people and not against them? So a Europe that is fit for the digital age. Also, more generally, how do we deliver an economy which works for people? I think this is a very important message, because for too long now there has been an impression in many parts of Europe that Europe is really about an economy that works for business and not for people, and we have to change that perception, and that means also changing about the way we work. She wants to create a Europe which is stronger in the world, which is more engaged in the world more generally with other parts of the world, and there are big geopolitical changes happening which we need to take account of but also take advantage of in terms of the repositioning of some of the global powers. She has a real concern for democracy in Europe and how we can ensure that democracy remains strong and becomes stronger also in a digital age. How do we keep people engaged in the processes of developing policy and of shaping the sort of continent that we want to live in? And finally, this idea about promoting our European way of life. And there we need to work together to decide how to develop that, what does that mean, what are the values that we all adhere to, that we want to see promoted. Now these are all areas, all of them without exception, that are going to need input from research and innovation. We cannot deliver on any of these objectives without contributions from science. So that means that we have to think about a different way of working, not least because the pace of change now is so great that it's very difficult for people like me, for people like Karina, for people like Adrian in his previous life as a policymaker. It's very difficult for us to keep up with the changes. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we could regulate. If there was something happening that we didn't like, we could pass a regulation, we could stop it happening. Now that's no longer possible. Now we have to try to set the direction of where we want to go without knowing about the detail of exactly what it is that we want. And science is one of the ways that we can do that. Because science is, if you like, a compass for the sort of developments that we want to see. So if we want a greener Europe, a more democratic Europe, if we want a fairer Europe, then science is what will set the agenda, will enable us to reach those goals. So that means that we have to think about the direction of science, of how we want to support science and invest in science, giving it that direction. But without telling scientists, without telling researchers exactly what they have to do. Because we as policymakers don't know. We don't know what you have to do. Because in 5 years, 10 years, the situation is going to be so different from what it is now. All we can do is to set the direction of where we want to be. So we need to have a clear vision of where that is. And the only way that we can do that is by a collective discussion, by conversations with citizens, with enlightened citizens, engaged citizens, people like you, who can help us to define that vision. And that is why it's been so important to us to spend a lot of time consulting with the scientific community over the last 9 months about the future direction of the next framework program for research and innovation for Horizon Europe, and why we have spent so much time discussing the strategic orientations, not the detail, but the strategic orientations of where we want to go and what we want to do with our new program. So those consultations have more or less concluded now. We've had 2 rounds of consultations. We're continuing with further discussions on some of the detail, and we'll come back in terms of work programs later on. But at the moment we've worked not on the specific actions, but on the types of impact that we would like to see in future. So, what does this mean for research infrastructures? Because it's all very well saying that we want a greener Europe, and that we want a fairer Europe, we want a more democratic Europe, we want a more digital Europe. But what does it mean for the infrastructures that are providing services to scientists? Karina said earlier that without the infrastructures we cannot do the science, and that's absolutely true. And I think that if, as Maria Gabriel said in her remarks, if Europe has performed so well in terms of scientific output compared to the size of its population, it's because of the strength of its research infrastructures and the investment that has been made in those infrastructures over many, many years. Then what we have to do at an infrastructure level is also rethink the way we provide those services. So the infrastructures need to see themselves as part of a holistic system, a joined up system, which is focused on meeting and delivering solutions to these global challenges that we're all facing. It's very important that we come out of the individual silos where infrastructures tend to have been over the last 20 or 30 years, and that we think about the services not just to scientists, but to the challenges. So they need to provide services which make the link to those strategic objectives, which support researchers in achieving those objectives, not only in terms of science and new knowledge, but also in societal and economic terms. So at a European level, that means that infrastructures have to be clearly part of what we call Pillar 2 of the new programme, the Horizon Europe programme, focused on the global challenges. Not just in an ad hoc way, as has often been the case up to now, but in a very strategic way, but also part of the broader programme across all three pillars of the programme, across the basic science pillar, but also across the innovation pillar, and with a strategic approach with clear goals and a clear vision of the sort of impact that you want to achieve. It means also that research infrastructures need to make links across domains. It's no longer possible to solve a problem like, for example, I don't know, air quality in cities, if you haven't got the people who are dealing with the measurement, but also people who are dealing with health impacts, people who are dealing with social sciences in order to create the behavioural change among citizens that we need. And unless we have those connections, we're not going to solve the bigger problem. So that's the change that we want to encourage. This doesn't mean less emphasis on basic science. I very much liked the introduction that we had, the keynote that we had from Professor Spiro this morning. It doesn't mean less emphasis on basic science, but it does mean making sure that we make the connection between basic science and sustainable development, as he said, or the global challenges, and to make the delay between the production of new knowledge and its use in applied functions much shorter and much more efficient. I think that's extremely important. Infrastructures, of course, are very well placed to do that. Many infrastructures have strong links with industry. We heard about CERN this morning, which of course has an incredible set of links with industry, a devoted service designed to do that, to make sure that its new technological developments are translated into industry as quickly as possible. We're not all CERN, we can't all be CERN, and we shouldn't all be CERN, but we should all be able to help with that translational work, and we need to support infrastructures in trying to do that. I mentioned also at the beginning the international links. It's extremely important that European research infrastructures develop international links, not just within Europe, but also more globally. And one of the things that we're going to be doing with the new Horizon Europe programme is to enable those links, to support those links in a much more concentrated, much more intense way than we have been able to do in the past. In particular by extending the scope of association to the programme beyond neighbourhood countries and to third countries in the world which have good levels of science and technology and which have a commitment to the principles of democracy and to the market economy and concern for the welfare of their people. So there's a real potential here to create a global space in which science can operate and a global space in which research infrastructures can operate. We have had interest already from Japan, from Canada, from Mexico, from a number of countries around the world, Australia, New Zealand. who are interested in this new possibility to become associated to the new program. And we need to make sure that we exploit that and that research infrastructures use the international links that they already have in order to build on this new potential space. Finally, some realpolitik, if you like, money. We still haven't got an agreement on the budget for the new Horizon Europe programme. And although the signals that we've had over the past, couple of weeks or so have been a little bit more encouraging, we still haven't got a final deal. I'm very grateful to Finnish colleagues for the support that they've been giving to research and innovation as the presidency of the Council of Ministers at the moment. But it's clear that we are still some way from a final deal on the budget, and the budget will determine an awful lot in terms of what we are able to do. Karina talked about the comparison between science and sport. And there are many, many differences, but there are also some similarities, and that is that money makes a difference. Manchester City is Manchester City because of its finances. And it's extremely important that we maintain a strong budget at a European level for investment in research and innovation. But of course that is just a very tiny part of the overall investment in Europe. And it's very important that each of the member states devotes a strong proportion of its national budget also to research and innovation. And also that we increase the amount of investment from the private sector. This is something which is very, very crucial in all member states, but particularly in Central and Eastern Europe. And if we're going to do that, we have to show that we are relevant to industry, and that we are able to speak the language of industry. And that means more outreach, more involvement, and a greater concern for understanding the problems of industry and the contribution that research infrastructures can give. We have some very fine examples in the room, and we need to make sure that those good practices become common practices across Europe. Thank you very much.
Well, I just would like to tell you that we have a section for question and answers. So if you have a specific, very short question right now to Adam, you can ask, or just collect it for later when we can talk to and ask every one of the panelists. This was just a comment for the procedure. I don't see any waving hands at the moment. So it's quite important at this very moment to realize that research infrastructures are pillars of excellent science. But they have this specific role to answer how individual researchers who has great ideas could join them. And this is one tendency of having not single-site research infrastructures only, but to have these distributed infrastructures which give the opportunity for a nation to preserve the local infrastructure and to work together in international environment. Now Sana will present the concept and the realization of distributed infrastructure. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for Anna for your presentation and introduction. And I also want to thank everyone as a local organizers the opportunity to be here today. I'm really pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased to also see the 4S in the title of the conference. I try today to give an explanation and example of how we are trying to really materialize these 4 S's in practice. It is not an easy task, and we will come to that, I guess, in the discussions. As you can hear already, there is a lot of expectations for research infrastructure, starting that we should be a basic research infrastructures for offering excellent science for the best in the world. But at the same time, we should be the best settlements also for how we are interacting with the society and also at the same time with the innovation developments. So that's the multiple task for research infrastructure. But let's go to Actris, and probably you will see all of these S's popping up in this presentation. So Actris stands for aerosols, clouds and trace gases, and when I'm talking about clouds, I'm really talking about the real clouds on the sky. Nowadays it has such multiple meanings but we are really working with the atmosphere. So Actris is a research infrastructure on the ESRI roadmap on atmospheric research. Fundamental, basic atmospheric research, starting from there. We are focusing on the short-lived atmospheric constituents as a separation for the long-term lived climate forces, for example, for greenhouse gases. So we are working with the aerosols, as I said, trace gases and so forth. We are really much interested about the atmospheric composition, properties, processes, emissions, transport over the regions, removal from the atmosphere, trends and feedbacks. And that means that everything which is on the air, it is our interest. And you can see some of the examples on the pictures. That means that when we are coming to the scientific questions and societal challenges, that is translated to the air quality, of course, climate, and of course there is a close link to the health issues. So these are the main themes that Actris can provide new knowledge and information. If you look different kind of sectors in the society, the transport sector, particularly in Europe, is really in the undergoing a huge transformation. And therefore, air pollution, emissions are really in the core of that questions, and Actris is providing information on that. So transport sector, air pollution, urbanization, megacities, Chinese issues with the air quality and so forth are in our field. Also early warning systems, not only for the anthropogenic systems, but we are also working with the volcanoes, eruptions and so forth, sea spray and other natural processes. Climate adaptation and mitigation is certainly a topic for Actris. I mentioned already that Actris is on the roadmap of ESRI. It has been since 2016 as a project. We are covering 22 countries currently in Europe, so we can really say that it's a distributed research infrastructure on the different regions of Europe. We have currently involved 144 research performing organizations in Europe. So this is the character of distributed research infrastructure, which has a huge local and regional impact. Currently, 17 countries out of 22 is already working at the governmental level on making the decision on ERIC and our commitments for the future. How we are structuring this kind of a very widely distributed research infrastructure, we do have two different components. We have national facilities which are located at the national level. They are the high quality research facilities in each of these 22 countries. They can be observational platforms that observing the long-term trends and so forth on the atmosphere, or they can be exploratory platforms where you will do short-scale studies and experiments. So we are combining a kind of a CERN type concept in a local scale in addition to the long-term observations. So that is a complex system to work with. Then at the European level we have 3 different types of activities. Of course, the head office, which is a coordination activity of all activities. We have a data center gathering all the information from all the national facilities, both observational and exploratory platforms. But in addition to that, we have 6 different calibration centers. We are calling them topical centers. And these are really related to the instrumentation that we have at the national level. I will come back today and hold a very essential role in ACTRIS later. This means that if we calculate the human efforts that is put in ACTRIS already in its construction phase, we are around 150 scientists and technicians and managers working in the European level facilities. In addition to that, we are gathering around 800 scientists, technical PIs at the local level. So this is exactly what we are talking about, this excellence at the local level and how you can interlink that to the European level activities at the daily base. ACTRIS is now just ending the preparatory phase of its activities, and we are moving to 5 years implementation phase. That means that all the upgrades necessary to be done at the national level, constructions at the European level will be implemented in the next 5 years. We are aiming to have the ACTRIS ERIC as a legal entity for ACTRIS in place in 2021. We had already submitted our step 1 proposal to Commission in March this year. We have received the feedback from the Commission and currently are working with the countries for those feedbacks and then finalizing all the documentation for the submission. The services that ACTRIS is planning to have can be divided in 2 different sectors. Of course, the data is the core, so there will be a virtual access to the ACTRIS data gathered from all the countries. So there will be a lot of different types of data products. We are also planning to have a virtual research environment together with tools and computational capabilities for the future, the scientists immediately to utilize the data on cloud systems. Physical access and remote access actually is also a concept for ACTRIS. So we are providing physical access as a research service for the certain platforms, instrumentation, calibration, not only for ACTRIS members but also for all the users, industry services and training services. And everything of these you can access by a web portal for ACTRIS. Then you will have either if you have a physical access request, you will contact it by the Service and Access Management Unit, where you will be then directed after the evaluations, either to the national facilities, selected ones, or topical centers at the European level. But the backbone of the whole research infrastructure is these national facilities which are providing data. So that means that there are instrumentations around 200 different facilities in Europe, but all the instruments where the data is coming is of course important that it's high quality data. So it has to be, the instrument has to be calibrated, it has to be standardized, operated and so forth. So that means that there is an interlink between the topical centers and the national facilities for the different calibrations and training purposes. So the topical centers will be these 6 ones for access for users, but at the same time really for our own high quality performance of our activities. We've made already in the PPP phase and already a first impact analysis based on the activities that the research organizations who are participating in ACTRIS, that what kind of impact we do have in science, for the human capital development, in economy and also for the society. And here is just a couple of numbers for those. So we can say that there has been more than 8,000 scientific papers and more than around 100 book chapters provided for the last 10 years on the topics. We have been already
provided more than 55,000 full year of measurement data that has been downloaded by the 2,300 users in 72 different countries. And we have also the direct link to our operational services. So Copernicus is of course a very full instrumental for our collaboration. So we have already provided 18,000 years of data for the Copernicus services and model validations. For the economy, we have to say that we have been working and we have had contracts more than 100 companies in the recent years. And we had calculated that we have generated 16 million funding for the partners for the private sector. And we have 19 applications for patents. And there has been 12 startups and spin-offs in the different countries. So there is no single country which has benefit for this. It has been the European and local benefits. We have been providing around 140 new methodologies, prototypes, or standards together with the national metrology institutes. Also, there has been, of course, a huge capacity building efforts in countries. So our collaboration synergies is that we are working together with the developing reference procedures. We have a common collaboration, of course, with all the different research infrastructures in Europe and also internationally. We are providing downstream services for Copernicus, UMETSET, UMETNET, and so forth. We are supporting other international Earth observation services like ESA, WMO, and COV. We are also involved in GEO and EuroGeos, and also there's plenty of research and development activities in all the levels. So that is a highlight of these synergies and collaboration. If you look more carefully about the innovation part and the private sector, we have been last 4 years when we had an integrated activity project called Actris 2 funded. Over that time, we were working with 20 SMEs already that were accessing our DNA activities. And there was more than 50 private partnerships with the private sector on through this project. So there is a direct link. And as I said once again, at the local level. And if you looked at how the private sector was using our current already kind of pre-services, they were mainly using it for instrument calibrations. They were testing new instruments with us and having a training. But also in the future, it really requires a lot of effort for us to push forward this kind of collaboration. It takes time and resources. You have to articulate all your services in a new phase and so forth. And we really would like to enhance particularly the development of new instruments and testing of new instruments in our platforms. I want to say something about Actris Bulgaria, which I'm very proud of, and I'm happy to see several of my colleagues here today. Actris has been in Bulgaria already in the roadmap since 2017. We have a very good stations and facilities in Bulgaria. One is related to LiDARs, so our remote sensing part. So we are looking for the atmospheric profiles and volumes. And then we have here in a Molten station, which is an observatory for long-term data provision. These are hosted by Institute for Nuclear Research and Nuclear Energy and Institute of Electronics at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. And there are certain information related to that. But I would like to emphasize what has been the impact of these stations in here in Bulgaria. Of course, there is a scientific impact. There has been a capacity building over the many years. This station has been around the 2070s, and the LiDAR station was already established first time in 1954. So that's a very long time. So there is, of course, a capacity building, accumulation of new scientific knowledge. But what is important, it is standardized and quality controlled instrumentation, operational procedures, and data retrieval schemes that has been transferred to the Bulgaria from the European concept. Contribution to Bulgarian observational data has been, the data has been included in Actris data center, means that there are users which are much wider than only in this country. This data has been used by the researchers worldwide. Then the modernization of instruments is of course important. Upgrades to meet all the modern requirements. And that has been, all of these activities has increased the scientific quality of research in this area here. Societal impact, air pollution in the Bulgarian larger cities has been one of the themes, and we will be able to contribute to that information from this data. Observations and new knowledges to tackle local and regional socio-economic challenges, because it is important that each of the area has their own information, not only that it's not somehow try to utilize the Finnish data and downscale it to here. It doesn't make any sense. This has been then strengthened the Bulgarian R&D and R&D innovation landscape. But I'm seeing still a challenge, and I'm hearing from my colleagues a challenge to attract young scientists and research staff to these activities. And this is something that where this European connection is very important. It can offer an attractive mobility schemes, training, and being a member of European partnerships, and not only locally. And that can be something that we can compete with the young scientists, talented young scientists, who otherwise would probably move to some other sectors of society to work, and we want to keep them in science. So that's something that I think that we should work more with. So this is where I want to end this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just would like to mention the Actris Bulgarian Consortium, because I see representatives of the two groups, two institutes, to Bulgaria's Academy of Sciences. One group is Observatory of Musala, which is under the auspices of Institute of Nuclear Research and Nuclear Energy, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, and the other group is Laser Radar Laboratory in the Institute of Electronics, again Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. And I do believe that very soon, when they will be more active, their web page will be more active as well, in order to have a good access to all facilities. But if you are interested in this consortium, there is a poster outside, and you can look at this. I really would like to encourage the audience, all participants, to pay attention to these posters, because they give the chance to understand the way Bulgarian system is working at the moment, what kind of infrastructures are funded, and this actually generates the basis for the future research as well. Now I'm going to give the floor to you, to Adrian. Now he will be presenting BBMRI at the very end. So while you are organizing the presentation, I would like to tell you a few words about ALI. ALI is the biggest infrastructure which is under construction in Romania, and as far as I know, Adrian was one of the great supporters of this extremely important for Europe infrastructure. ALI is very complicated infrastructure, which has 3 different pillars in Czech Republic, Romania and Hungary. I don't believe that you are going to talk a lot for ALI, but it was just to tell the people that in our neighboring country there is a huge infrastructure.
Good morning. First, thank you for the invitation, for being here. I am so glad. Yes, indeed, I will not be on total focus on ELI. Dunai or Danubius, the second distributed research infrastructure Romania is hosting and put things together. But I was asked to present something from the institutional experience, and today I have is the head of research and innovation funding agency in Romania. So everything I will say, I will put under the under the name of my presentation: informing, being prepared, and inspiring action. Everything is around the research infrastructure and about research infrastructure. And the first point I want to touch is foresight for policy making, because we start with future of. Yeah? And foresight capabilities, I think, are important when we talk about research infrastructure. And I'm very proud to say, very glad to say, proud is too much, very glad to say, in a way we treat foresight as, in a way, as a quadruple helix engine, and the funding agency is hosting the hub for foresight for policy making with public entity, where Future is the name, with private entity and UNESCO Chair on Science Innovation Policies from academic, and also I force a little bit the fourth pillar with citizen science, but I just wanted to give the message, the overall message on this. Okay, we have done a lot of things from foresight point of view in Romania, and I will name some of them because they are connected with what we have today. 2005-06 foresight for national research and development strategy. In 2013 we did again, and also we started this year for 2021-2027. Also, we use foresight for smart specialization in 2013, and now we also use foresight for a part of smart specialization for 2021-2027. And also we put energy and efforts in foresight for higher education, and we have done an amazing exercise in 2011, 2012 that in a way align a lot in our society. But also we have done a lot for the European Commission in informing policies, including the actual Horizon Europe program, and I will say a few words about the program. We start at the beginning of Horizon 2020 with Vera Forward Vision for the European Research Area. We continue with Bohemia Project. There are scenarios for research and innovation policies in Europe, and we continue with citizen science, Simulact, and we just finalize our projects on radical innovation breakthroughs inquiring, publishing, and the European Commission published a report, 100 technologies pushing the boundaries and let's say challenging Europe and the world for the 2020-35. So I put this accent because it is our presence in Europe for informing policies in Romania. It's so important. It's not just being there and coming nothing back home. It's actually important to come back with. And if it is about the Simulact and citizen science, we run an amazing exercise with 28 countries in 30 languages in parallel. And believe me, the power of collective intelligence is huge and amazing and interesting. So I will go to the next step in my presentation. And of course, what we have done, we put also some seeds of foresight in the Romanian Roadmap for Research Infrastructure in 2017, and in a way it made a difference in what we achieve. Also, we have been partners, because we start being, and we are also partners to different innovation in Europe regarding research infrastructure. I remember well in 2010, we were one of the first supporting the ERIC, the first pilot in ERIC world. And we hope to be capable to use all this experience for Romania, having the challenge to be partner in ERICs for ERI and Danubius and many others in the future. Of course, we are actually living in the middle of tornado of digital transformation and digital pressure moving everything, but also being pushed by sustainability. And in this context, being prepared is something important. And I will tell you something about being prepared from our point of view. Being prepared in understanding how things are connected. And are important when we talk about research infrastructure, the way we connecting research infrastructure, how 100,000 of research infrastructure and thousands of researchers and a lot of topics, to see if how they are collaborating, and also if there are missing parts in this game. We from public policies to come with correct and to come with our interventions, but also it's important to understand opportunities, and this is a slide with everything Romania is part of in Europe from the point of view of partnership. So having being partner in so many interventions at the European level, having hundreds of projects, it's important to understand when and how to put the energy and how to use your research infrastructure and how to be connected with the existing infrastructure if you want to make a difference. The next one is about understanding trends. But trends are dealt by many different entities, and I put here Deloitte and years after years, and also trending the trends, all the information we have, you have. But all this information doesn't help you to be beware the elephant in the room. So trends, you know. But if you look forward, and I'm coming from Future Studies, if you look forward and try to advise for some next steps, definitely we have to be careful and to scan the horizon. To look at the weak signals at the horizon, something not yet trends, to see if somehow, some way they have a proper movement becoming in the future trends, and to put energy in. It is not easy, it's quite complicated, and we have done this effort for years in Romania, and we work not only for Romania, we work for the region and for the Europe. It's not possible to work being standalone in your country. It's a technology radar. I don't know go into details. You will have access to the presentation. It's about big data and machine learning, scanning everything happening all around the world daily, and filtering and trying to see if something is moving at the horizon. It's not a crystal ball. It's just looking at the data and trying to understand what data says. And it's about big signals, and I just told you about the report published by the European Commission, 100 technologies pushing the boundary for Europe and for the world, 2035. Most of them are based on the information from the horizon scanning mechanism, but of course a lot of sense making insight to understand and to put things together. It's about also not only traditional networks, but also different global networks, and it helps us for understanding what is happening and be open. The next point is about smart specialization, and smart specialization has at its ground, as a backbone, entrepreneurial discovery mechanism. But entrepreneurial discovery mechanism is not based only on the existing resources, it's based also of things happening at the horizon. So results from the horizon scanning we use also for the entrepreneurial discovery mechanism and for the smart specialization strategy. And of course we work also regionally for research infrastructure. We work in the past for research infrastructure, future foresight and impact. We had a European project on this, but most just finalizing research infrastructure, an Interreg project looking at and building capacity at the regional level. I will move faster all the steps from the research infrastructure life cycle, providing guidelines, practical guidelines, so much important for us. But also being prepared means also to understand very clear what kind of infrastructure you have. If I ask you what you have in Bulgaria, will be quite complicated. If you ask us what we have in the new region, is quite complicated. If we ask us what we have at the European level, it's even more. And we start building something interesting. It's a research infrastructure. It is functional from years, engaging Romanian research infrastructure system. And you may see thousands of equipments, thousands of research services, thousands of technological services, so very much needed for looking at the kind of impact of research infrastructure. Equipment, service available, and location. And the next step is to build a new kind of mechanism of trust, from static to service-oriented platform, to have blockchain layer of blockchain on, because also we use technology for even for using and to use this technology also because in the near future we want to co-finance in a way experiments in the research infrastructure. We want to set up a mechanism of vouchers for experiment, but smart contracts under the blockchain would be the easiest way to have the proof of what is happening and to make story long short, just for moving resources to the research infrastructure that are moving fast. Of course, research infrastructure and open science, it's so much important. Quite nice to phrase the subject and to be careful how we are part of all the engines at the European level on these subjects. I don't know don't go into details, but anyhow I wanted to put it. And also we try to see on different subjects around impact, and one of the most important one not yet approached is about science diplomacy. The role of research infrastructure in science diplomacy I think is huge and huge and huge, become more and more huge. Also we are interested in impact, and because you said something about ELI, I don't want you to put too much emphasize, but we prepare also impact studies on the way we may extend the value of having the research infrastructure on different areas, and this study is very nice, but also we are looking at knowledge and economic spillovers and scenarios when we have such a beautiful research infrastructure at the frontier of science and technology, what could be and should be done for having knowledge and economic spillovers, for having a real impact on competitiveness of the region, of the country. And inspiring action, the idea of research infrastructure I like very much. With Go East Young Men, so nice, beautiful research infrastructure are in a way attraction points, hubs for attraction. And we develop part of having the research infrastructure, the overall concept of inserting and taking advantage of research infrastructure on regional development and smart territorial intervention, and one of our flagship project Laser Valley. And also, what if is the last part of my presentation, what if we have something unique, you may use it for impact, and I put here an example. We have close to Magurele for the ELI, we have the largest heat pump system in Europe, 5 megawatts of energy, green energy. And we decided, because we have this, to be partners in Urban Europe Positive District, Positive Energy District pilot, very nice. It's about sustainability, new way of developing infrastructure and buildings and so on. So using something special for totally something different. But also we are talking about data centers, but focus on cognitive computing capabilities, because the huge data from large experiments are important to be put in a safe place, but also it's important the way you use artificial intelligence and big data for the understanding what data set, because we have something at the unique of technology and science, nuclear medicine hub, WACTIF, and the regional platform for many different other things, including outreach. Young people have to take advantage of being close to beauty of science and technology. And concluding remarks, it's just this slide. Definitely, if you don't know where to go, no wind will be favorable for you. Thank you so much.
You will have the chance to discuss in depth some of the points during the next round. So I give the floor to Francesco, who is the strategy and partnership manager of BBMRI. And that's very important to know. He was recently elected on this position, recently May 2017, with the role to talk to the stakeholders, to organize them, and to discuss with all participants and future participants of BBMRI, Eric. So Francesco, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Anna. Good morning, everyone. Zdravейте. I'm really happy to be here in Bulgaria. I have a personal connection with Bulgaria. My wife is from Sofia, so I love Bulgaria really deeply. I can't miss a chance to be here for professionally and not only for pleasure. But I'm really, really happy and really proud that we've been invited, the BMRI has been invited to this meeting because it shows again the long-term vision of the ministry and in general of the government of Bulgaria. I might be a bit biased because Bulgaria joined the BMRI in 2018, but that's a great signal indeed that Southern Eastern European countries really do have a big role to play in the research infrastructure panorama globally, not only in Europe. And maybe what's happening here in Bulgaria might be a good example. Before I dive into the matter of the day, let me tell you a little bit more about BMRI, what we do. Our acronym is really complex. It stands for Biobanking and Biomolecular Resource Research Infrastructure. We have the biobanking research infrastructure. We connect over 500 biobanks across Europe. Oh, sorry. And we are the largest biobanking directory. You can come, any researcher, academic or industry, can come to us and search our directory, our search engine, for more than 100 million samples, human samples and data across Europe. And when I mean across Europe, it's really across Europe. That's the map of our members. Hopefully that's going to grow soon. We expect Spain and Lithuania to join in 2020. We've been discussing with Slovakia. We've been actually opening a conversation with Romania. So hopefully this map is going to really become bigger and bigger. And what we do for these biobanks at the local level, we help them to grow, we help them to develop. We provide different services at different levels of the lifespan of the biobank. Of course, we are at the forefront of the biobanking science, and that's, let's say, easy because we can facilitate the growth of those biobanks that already have an international outreach. But we also help a lot smaller biobanks and emerging countries with a lower, let's say, budget to develop their own capacity. And here I have a nice example. Cyprus was actually our partners in Cyprus. The University of Cyprus was actually awarded a 15 million euro teaming project to develop their own biobanking infrastructure, which was matched up by the Cypriot government with another 15 million. This made basically the whole Cypriot biobanking field explode over 1 year. And we've been very, very proud to support Konstantinos, here you see, taking the award directly from the Director General Paquet, to develop their own national infrastructure. So we go there and we help them we tell them, this is the best standards you can use. These are the latest ethical requirements. That's how you can use GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, in the best way. We do that not from the headquarters. We don't own this knowledge, of pooling the best experts throughout the network that BMRI collects. And as I said, we can do that because we are at the forefront of biobanking science, and we're bringing this to Bulgaria next year at our largest European Biobanking Week Congress, which is the largest biobanking congress in Europe. We're working out the details on the date, but keep in touch. And then again, a great opportunity for the Bulgarian personalized medicine field to get in touch with the rest of Europe and to showcase also the good examples that are present here. Now that you know more about BMRI, I can dive into the topic of the day. I love Adam's points about the research infrastructures having to be more than just research. Look at themselves in a holistic way. In a very humble way, that's what BMRI tries to do. In our statute, we are mandated to check our strategy with the stakeholders, and that's actually what I do. That's my job. And when we do that, we figure out that, first of all, our stakeholders are not only the research infrastructures or the users, but because of the field we work in, biomedical science, we also have a direct connection with patients. So I'm very happy to hear about citizen science, because that's all about biobanking. It's where we have a direct connection with citizens every day. And when we talk with them, it comes out that the panorama, let's say the field in which we work, is really broader. Medical research infrastructures, because of the specific field they work in, biomedical science, are really at the intersection of these three large groups. ministers of research, and there I put also as representatives of the citizens, so really society, European institutions, most importantly the users. And I really want to focus on industry here because most of our services, most of our queries still come from academia. The number of academics that come to our search engine to look for samples, the vast majority is academic. We need to change that because simply not enough universities are developing treatments using our samples. We need industry to be more involved. We try to do that very hard, very hard. But we see ourselves at the middle of the circle, really, again, a honest broker, if you want, a partner among all these stakeholders, and we can help them all. We don't solve the issue, we just facilitate. By facilitating, there is a great advancement, there is a great, let's say, added value that only research infrastructures can bring. And that's why we focused our mission and vision. We didn't change the whole spirit of PDMI, the business remains the same. But in the last years, we really changed our approach from a purely scientific organization to a service-oriented one. I suppose this might sound a bit, it might resonate with some other scientific communities. Without the scientists, this research infrastructure would simply not exist. You are the ones who build, who create the knowledge. But at the same time, we need to evolve from a purely scientific-oriented type of organization to a service-oriented one. And to prove this point, we had a look at where biobanking fits in the drug development process. That's what we care about, you know, making new treatments possible. And here's a schematic that you're not supposed to be able to read, don't worry. That shows you just, this is the drug development process and where biobanking fits. It becomes very, very clearly, you're not going to have new treatments without biobanking. Forget about personalized medicine either, because that's all data-based. So we are really a key component, but on our own, we don't make it happen. Research infrastructures, biobanks in particular, we're not going to be able to deliver anything to society on our own. So that's why when we had a look at this schematic, we quickly realized that we need to partner with other research infrastructures to deliver holistic services to our new users. If you want to run a clinical trial in Europe, you need to go to ECRAN. They are the research infrastructures focused only on international clinical trials. There's no one who knows the clinical trial regulation better than ECRAN. They have a network of outstanding scientific experts and lawyers across Europe. So the whole clinical part of your drug development must go through them. And you must involve the others. Another research infrastructure that is focused on delivering high-quality laboratory services throughout the process, but very crucially, they do something that neither us nor ECRAN do. They also work on the market authorization level. So really, at the very end of the process, which is not even covered by our previous assessment of, we didn't even think about the drug authorization process at BBMI. So that shows you the added value of collaboration. My point is, what Adam mentioned is really true. We're trying to implement it in a very specific field, and we see that it works. It works so much that we sat down with the other research infrastructure. We signed a deal, a memorandum of understanding, and we're working out the delays to create a strong alliance. And I cannot understand, it's very difficult for me to make you understand how strong this alliance wants to be. We really want to create joint services. We want to train people on how to use our services to expand their horizon and really work on the whole drug development process. But most importantly, we also want to work on joint advocacy. Work together, have a strong position, strong voice on all the matters that we care about. We're not doing this on our own, because as we are not the, if you're need a biobank, you come to us, we are the expert. But if we need a strategy, we're not the strategic guys. So we hired a futurist, Bogi Eliasson from the Future Institute in Copenhagen, to help us out. And here's us actually discussing a few weeks ago, how we can go further. That's to say that we are really serious about this, and that's going to be the future of the joint partnership between these three infrastructures. I am not sure this is the model that can work for all research infrastructures, but it's definitely working for us, and we're looking forward to see how we can develop in the future. So far, it has been extremely useful for advancing. We positioned ourselves towards the European Commission. Here you see the former commissioner, Moedas. I really hope to substitute that picture with the Mrs. Gabriel very soon. But the point here is that only through a joint collaboration, only through working together, is it possible for a small organization like BBMRI to have a high impact at the biggest scale. And we don't do just this for, we don't do just joint advocacy for weight purposes, to jump up on the weight category, but really to have the brightest ideas. And that's one of the ideas that came out from these conversations. Horizon Europe is, notwithstanding the budget, will still be the most ambitious research program in the world. Hopefully, rumors that we heard last week will not be confirmed, that the budget will be a bit higher, we hope. But regardless, it will be the most ambitious. There are still issues, though, with the way it works. And we flagged, this is one example that we flagged to our colleagues at the IMI and our partners in the industry. We really struggle as a research infrastructure to provide our best services to the best calls. So we suggested a system by which, instead of forcing the research infrastructures to be beneficiaries, to have to go out and do the project proposal, and de facto have to choose which one is the proposal that wins, or even worse, which is a huge conflict of interest that's extremely wrong, or worse, being cut out of the project and not being able to provide service, we suggest that for public-private partnership, like the next IMI, however it's going to be called, we want to be subcontractors, basically. Mandatory subcontractors. Give us a small budget, we don't need it. We are fully funded by the countries, so money is not the problem. But we want to be part of the winning consortium. We want to be able to provide our services to those who need the most. And that fits, in my personal and professional opinion, the huge investments that the European Commission and Member States put into research infrastructures. Adam, your unit came out recently with an overview of the past funding period. Over 20 billion were provided at the national, local, and European level to research infrastructures. This is the best way to make this 20 billion work. We don't need to, again, I'm speaking for BBMI, but we really don't need to be part in these projects. We need a cost recovery system for people to access our services consistently, and that could be a solution. I'm also here happy to wear my other hat as project coordinator of the ERIC Forum, to say that basically all this beautiful work that we're doing at BBMRI, it's only one drop in the ocean, because there is a world of research infrastructures out there that have the same problems, they're struggling in the same way, have achieved equal or bigger successes in the field of research, but are still struggling to get a common voice. We are lucky to be coordinating this project, but it's really a joint effort with all the research infrastructures to make sure that we have a common voice towards our stakeholders. And I just want to, I'm not going to develop much into the ERIC Forum. I just want to highlight that we really try to do our best to be present as much as possible. We'll be in Brussels next 5th and 6th of February with our annual meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss some of the key topics that are on today's agenda as well. So just to say that the community of ERICs within this room and outside of this room, it's really on the topic, and it's ready to be a consistent and reliable partner in the conversation. And with that, I'm done. These are my take-home message. I agree perfectly with what Adam said. We need to look at research infrastructure, need to look beyond their specific mission. Don't change their DNA, but change the way they look at the panorama of research policy out there. So we need to solve our problems first. Well, there are also issues out there that we cannot solve, but with a strong voice. The way funding schemes work at the national and European level is one thing on which we can work together, and only working together we're going to reach that weight, that prowess at political level that can actually make things change. I showed you a little example of 3 research infrastructures trying to do that in the biomedical field. There are more important opportunities within the ERIC forum that hopefully will develop in the future. The bottom line, it's very, very complex to work in this field and let's say dictate from a national perspective, from a European perspective, what should happen at the local level, because it's at the local level that the real research happens. So distributed research infrastructures and big networks like the ERIC Forum, the IRO Forum, our alliance, and this Congress and so on, are great opportunities to talk about the elephant in the room, as Professor Courage just mentioned. I'm really looking forward for the conversation and for the debate, and feel free to approach me at any time. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. We have only 22 minutes left for the discussion, so I change a bit what we have discussed in advance. For the audience, let me tell you what are the topics we are going to discuss, but I will shuffle the topics to the panelists in a specific way. So we have the very first one, which is important here, approaches for identifying strategic research infrastructures. Because it is a very complicated process, I transfer this question to Adam.
Thank you very much indeed. I mean, it is a very interesting question. So what is going to be a strategic research infrastructure in the future? And I think that, Adrian already mentioned this in a way when he talked about horizon scanning and trying to pick up the weak signals. And I think that from our point of view, from the European Union point of view, if we look at the landscape of research infrastructures in Europe now, after 15 years of ESFRI's work, identifying new infrastructures, incubating new infrastructures, we can almost say we're done. We have a very strong landscape of infrastructures. There are some gaps, and we're in the process now of renewing the ESFRI roadmap for 2021, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of proposals for new infrastructures, and we'll see how they are assessed by ESFRI and what happens as a result. One thing that's clear is that governments are coming to the limits of their ability to finance new infrastructures. So this is not a time where we are going to be adding lots of new infrastructures, European infrastructures, to the ESFRI roadmap. It's already quite a restriction on national budgets, that even before they decide how they want to finance research itself, never mind the infrastructures, but research itself, they have to set aside a pretty large proportion of their budgets for financing their national infrastructures and in many cases the European infrastructures. So there's not going to be a lot of new. So what is strategic? What strategic is about getting more impact out of what's already there. And that is a little bit about trying to change the way the infrastructures themselves are working and trying to get them to focus on impacts in the policy priority areas that we've discussed this morning. And that will be extremely important. But also trying to do the sorts of things that Francesco was talking about also, about making connections. Because if you want to deal with the weak signals, it's no good trying to do it on your own. You need a team. And that's where the strategic response is going to come from. And I think that the life sciences example is very good. But sometimes you also have to get out of your own discipline and domain. You have to go across borders. And that's going to be the challenging thing for many scientists. We talk about interdisciplinary work, and we've been talking about it for 20 years. And everybody claims that they're doing it. Well, not really. We did some work 4 or 5 years ago where we tried to identify interdisciplinary publications at a European level. And what we saw was that they were happening to a very large extent in the small technical universities. But if you looked at the large, research-intensive, comprehensive universities, it was really much weaker, because there the faculties are very strong and they stay within their walls. The smaller regional universities, the technical universities, they have to be exposed to the real world, and they're dealing with real world problems, often working with local authorities, with regional authorities, with businesses, and there everything is interdisciplinary because life is interdisciplinary. And we need much more to get the research infrastructures thinking in that way, that this is not about SVET, I'm going to use CERN. This is not just about high energy physics. This is about the connections that high energy physics can have with other domains and the contribution that it can make to other domains, and making sure that you have all the connections that CERN has. Maybe there will be more in the future, but CERN already has. But also that that's true across all the different domains, that we have that. And that will be the strategic response. That will be how we identify which of the infrastructures in Europe now are strategic and where we need to invest more.
Thank you so much. I know several people here who are suffering a lot of having no operation money. And the infrastructure is not only to build, it should operate, and it should be at a so high level to meet all challenges we are talking about. And my next question is going to Sana, which is looking for potential research infrastructure facilities, because one possible solution of these difficulties, how to fund already existing infrastructure, is to look at the infrastructure as a flexible body. You or somebody mentioned that it is not anymore static, it should be dynamic. So what you would suggest, how to unlock potential of a complicated infrastructure?
Thank you. I mean, as Adam's question was challenging, this is also one which has very many aspects. First of all, I would add to that strategic foresight activities that our keynote speakers was really nicely pointing out that some of the early warnings or the trends are actually coming from science itself. So it is not only to look for the society and where the kind of the weak signals in the society are, but also there are new evolutionary and very revolutionary things done in science, top science. So in a way that European framework programs are also platforms for enabling these first signals in the society. So then we are coming to how the research infrastructure then can unlock that. So I think that we should still keep the main activity, research infrastructures, excellent science. So the fundamental science, basic science, is needed for everywhere, and it's the basis for that. So unlocking the potential means that we are creating and still developing the European research environment so that it is really promoting the excellent science and giving the best capacity to do so. And that means also that we are keeping the best talented scientists in Europe to do the work, so that we are enabling the environment where there is scientists want to stay in their local organizations. They have the capacity to do the science at the best, and they have the best connections in Europe and internationally. So that's for science. For innovation, I think that, in the science point of view, I think that research infrastructures has been built so that they are platforms for excellent science. So when we are coming to this technology collaboration, private sector collaboration, innovations, this is something that we are doing aside of our main task, which has been the excellence in science and research. And as I can already, I was able to demonstrate from Actri's case that we do have collaboration with the private sector. It's a lively one. We will continue to do so. But at the same time, scientists has first established the research infrastructures. They don't have the competence, the best competence, to work with the private sector in terms of outreaching, promoting, selling the services that we can have. So I would say that there's a lot of unlocked potential in each of the research infrastructure, but that requires a bit of resourcing, put in the right competence to be hired in the research infrastructures, that we are enabling to communicate with the right language with the private sector. We are also setting up a lot of emphasis on the local and regional level, because technology development, private sector collaboration normally happens in a really bilateral way in a local level. So that means that we have to equip, particularly the distributed research infrastructures in each of the nodes to be capable of working with that potential. There are other things too. There are societal impacts, and that this is of course, and is already referred several times, the collaboration between different research infrastructures, collaboration with the researchers by themselves, and as in biomedical or life sciences, also environmental research infrastructures are very well connected to each other, and we are understanding our role in a bigger picture. And I think that that's the way where we can really meet best the societal challenges that we are facing, particularly in the environmental and climate part. Mobility, I would really emphasize the role of mobility here. I think that there are several ways of that, particularly Horizon Europe could enhance this by combining different instruments. So you have a great Marie Curie-Skłodowska program. Combine that with the infrastructure funding and activities. I think that's one way to do it. It's also for the missions. There's a huge potential for combining the research done in the future mission activities of Horizon Europe, and how the research infrastructures can be the platforms where that is done in that form. So at least those some examples.
Thank you very much. You heard several times the word road mapping or roadmap. So this is a complicated process which contains several stages. It is not only European Strategic Forum that is doing road mapping. ESFRI has already several roadmaps, 2006, 8, 10, 14, 16, 18, and now we are working towards 2021. The reason was partially unveiled that the landscape of research infrastructure is dynamic, it's changing, and there are a lot of new ideas which are generated, but they don't have their own research infrastructures. They would like to have one. On the other side, the reason to ask Sana for how we could use already existing infrastructure in a way to open the horizon for something new. That's complicated. It is just an opening. And I will give the floor to Adrian, who will talk a bit about rethinking research infrastructure roadmaps as a tool for research infrastructure excellence and capacity, and to add his own idea, which I did not give him the floor, about identifying strategic research infrastructures. And I would like to remind you that he mentioned something about scanning the horizon. Scanning the horizon gives another dimension of complexity of the process of roadmapping, because we just do landscape at the moment.
Thank you. I'll try to touch the subject of reconsidering the roadmap, but also it's a quite broad context. And I put some seeds. First I said about forward-looking. Forward-looking, it's really important, but also it's nice to be tuned with what is happening around, not only in Europe, all around the world. You may easily see research infrastructure roadmap in Australia, in Asia, in the US, in South America. So it's like looking at mixed signals at the horizon in what is happening, in what is planning in the research infrastructure. Because the idea is not to reinvent one, is to try to see if somehow, some way you may collaborate, or may you come with some added value on what is happening. This is first. Second, I think for the country level, it's very much important to see the local actors much more present in the game. Because as Adam said, it's quite complicated to see again public money in, but you may see a local commitment to come back with some support just for being sure some facilities as attractors for excellencies, for talents, and for the business are located in their area. And I think it's not immediately and obvious visible. This usually they are disconnected by the local administration. Maybe somehow, some way, local administration is taking care of the classic infrastructure for access, for something like this, but not directly connected with what is happening there. On the other hand, looking at the research infrastructure and the roadmap, definitely we have, and I would love to add something, maybe it's not directly linked with roadmaps, but with the functioning of research and the impact of research infrastructure. Definitely we have to rethink a little bit the state aid rules when we look at the research infrastructure and the way they could be used by different players, and the way state aid is seen in this context. And because I said something about state aid, I want to tell you my opinion about strategic research infrastructure. I don't know how to strategize and who is to put the idea of this one or that one is strategic, but definitely from my experience, there are very fast-moving areas, very costly and very dynamic, with research infrastructure with so short window of existence. Nobody is capable to put money, nobody is capable to use in full-time 24/7 the research infrastructure. And for such interdisciplinary areas as fast-moving areas, definitely we need still to put some money in, because all the private mechanisms will be around and will take the access and resources and results will feed in their competitiveness on the market. So it's a heavy discussion here, but I think is one of the points we have to be careful with the dynamic of what is happening, and that a very short life time of some research infrastructure, where you need definitely a public investment for the rest to be capable to use. And last, it's about access. We may talk a lot about research infrastructure located in big players, in small players, how we finance local administration, but actually for me, a part of big player having access, and when we talk about the state aid, I want to see entrepreneurs capable to use where and when it is possible to use the research infrastructure we have, just because they come with smart ideas. They need immediately an answer from the very deep of the research infrastructure for proving something, and later on to make small things bigger. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And Francesco, you mentioned already that one way to strengthen the research infrastructure is the collaboration. Actually, you just touched one idea which was recently discussed, how to have a sort of a clusters of research infrastructure. Would you give some new ideas you have?
Thanks, Anna. It's very difficult to add more to the conversation because I believe that many points have been added. So on the clustering thing issue, and I hear Adam's point, clustering is good, but we need to go beyond our specific field. I'm relatively new to this world of research infrastructures. I am not a scientist, so take my position with a grain of salt, but that's something we discussed pretty much within BBMRI, so I am confident that at least from the BBMRI perspective it's a solid position. Indeed, it's in general we should go the way that Adam described, moving beyond the silos. But when I joined BBMRI 2.5 years ago, the conversation that now we're having with the other two research infrastructures were not so idyllic as they're right now. And they are idyllic. It's wonderful. I showed you the picture from our last meeting with the futurist, and this guy doesn't care. He asked us all the hard questions. Why do you exist? Why should we be funding you in the next years? How come you're not merging into one research infrastructure instead of, keep funding 3? What happens to the countries that are not in one but in the other? I'm not giving you the answers, of course, but we're looking at these hard questions, and if the relationship with the other two research infrastructures would not be as good as it is now, the conversation would go awry very quickly. So I guess my point is we need to get a bit stronger within these clusters, identify those that can really have a day-to-day impact on the life of the scientists, because that's what matters. They need to get the services done, delivered, and then I think we can move towards collaboration. It's good that the Commission and member states are already working on overarching initiatives like EOSC, for example, that have the set the ground, provide a framework for this type of multicultural, multidisciplinary collaboration. We are in the EOSC Life cluster, if you want to call it that cluster, I don't know, but with other research infrastructure in the EOSC Life, and indeed it's enlightening to hear the conversation going on and figure out that the data issues across all the research infrastructure are pretty much the same. But still, you need to be able to walk before you run. And I really would like, in the lifespan of my professional career within BBMRI, to see us running towards a multi-stakeholder collaboration with other research infrastructures. But at the same time, I think it's a sensible and responsible from our side to build up on the low-hanging fruits that were simply not ripe before. If I may, one comment on on Adrian's point regarding competition and state aid. I love that you mentioned state aid, because that's such a big issue also at the regional level mostly, because we don't feel. Maybe I should shut up. Someone at DG Comp killed my microphone. We don't feel the heat at the European headquarters about state aid, but at the national level it's an issue. Competition is good, but I think we reached a level that, at the European level at least, where competition is harming is in the way of innovation. I mentioned our vision for the next IMI. The same thing can be applied to Horizon to a lesser extent, I believe, because there it's more about excellent science than delivering innovation. Maybe ESFRI, or in general this community, could have a look at the way funding is organized nationally, because maybe competition, like a purely excellent competition, competition based on excellence, might not be the best way to solve some of the societal challenges that our policymakers want to tackle.
Yeah, well, okay, excellence is one pillar and you should not forget about it. You are right that it should not be the only one. So usually we speak about dimensionality and the stability. So in the life we live, which is three-dimensional, if we exclude the time, the triangle is a stable figure. However, now we do not live in such simple dimensional space. We live much more in the space which is taught in theoretical physics. So this is multidimensional and even endless dimensional space. So the stable figures are to be discovered. So we discussed that already in DG research with Roberta, what could be in the next dimension. If the triangle is not good enough, triangle is not stable in four-dimensional space. So there is a lot to discuss, and I give the floor to the audience now for questions, suggestions, ideas. We collected a lot of information from our panelists, so feel free to take the floor. There are several microphones. I believe they are working. Yes. You have the microphone here. Yes.
Hello, this is Sofia from Scientific Knowledge Services. Thank you very much for your presentations. To all panelists, I would like to point out the example of Structural Genomic Consortium, if you know this, and they took what they are doing. They are trying to find new targets for medicine, so new molecules to target. So what they did, they split the research effort in two. One is the collaboration, and second is the competition. There are big prizes in developing new drugs, and they said, maybe it's good time to split the whole effort instead of giving competition to everybody. To make them compete to discover drugs, to split it into one, to collaborate, and for that we will find new target molecules together, and we put a budget together, and then we compete, as we normally do, for finding drugs and developing drugs. So far, they were able to discover 70 new molecules, target molecules, by a joint effort, working together on that project. This is a public-private consortium, including academics, but also private companies. 9 big pharma companies are in there. And the target molecules are not available to any of these members that exist in the consortium. They are not available prior to anyone from public. But in the day they decide to make it public, it's public to everybody, to their members and everyone else in the public. This is a kind of a model. I'm not pointing out that it's the best model, but it's a kind of a model of reshaping completely the research effort, optimizing it, putting it in two components, collaboration and competition. In a few words, bringing collaboration at the eye level with competition, which in my opinion never existed before. Do you think that's possible for research infrastructures as well?
Well, I mean, that at least from our field, I would say that it's a very interesting idea of how to do. I think that, of course, in practice, there is already that kind of things happening. First, you collaborate in order to get the new knowledge, and whether there will be then after the applications, there is the furious competition starting from that. But I think that it never been really structured so clearly. So I think that that's a really good session.
I also comment a little bit when I said about a different kind of strategic view on research infrastructure. In a way, was in the direction you continue with this. Actually, there are areas you have to put a lot of resources because it is too expensive. It is no way to be developed and used by the small group of people. And of course, because the research infrastructure and discussions about and around research infrastructure, it's open access to the data results from the experiments, actually to collaborate first on very fast moving areas to make data available, and later on there has to be take advantage on the competitive on the market. Of course, there are different kind of arrangement, business model, could be private, public, but this is about the beauty of flexibility of different business models.
I'll be very brief. I love this example. It hits on the mark of a societal issue which is affecting the life of people everywhere. I worked in cancer before as a patient advocate. We have these new CAR T cells treatments. It's an immunotherapy type of treatment. It costs $500,000 per patient per year. It's not affordable. Yet it's amazing. It's really changing people's lives. What do we want? Do we want to get this type of new treatment more available to more patients in the future or not? I think we should. We have a responsibility. What research infrastructures can do in the field, as you discussed, is again to be the honest broker between all the parties. I don't have an interest in developing a new drug. We don't hold IPs or any other type of rights on the work we do. But we can help to put people together at the same table on a collaborative basis. Initiatives like that, in my opinion, are a great example of how research infrastructure can actually have an impact on the life of people every day. Not only from the financial perspective, because a drug that costs $1.5 to $2 billion to develop then enters the market at a price tag that Bulgaria, Romania, Southern Italy cannot pay, and that's a shame. But at the same time, even if it enters the market and even if it's payable, it takes 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and sometimes it's not that good even when it gets to the market. So we can help with that. We can short the timing. We can cut the cost. What's missing right now? Well, that's our problem. As Adam said, we need to make this message clear to scientists like you, to researchers, to industry, who can actually do this, make this link happen. And the field of drug development, I think it's an easy win.
Thank you. So, next question or comment? You'd like to talk about this? Yeah. Panos, you have the floor.
I'm Panos Ardiakis from EIRG, the Infrastructure Reflection Group of the Commission, and from Greece, from University of Thessaloniki. I would like to raise the point that practically all of you discussed collaboration and interdisciplinarity. I think that the Commission, in the past 20 years or so, has given very strong emphasis on people from different fields to work together. So we have seen the FET program, Future Emerging Technologies. Earlier was the NEST, the newly emerging technologies, that had a prime requirement from different fields to work together. So we saw people from physics, chemistry, biology, and then sociology, linguistics, archaeology, medicine. Practically things that in the previous decade, or the previous century, I would say, they were unthinkable. People to work in physics and sociology. Today, sociophysics and econophysics are very strong fields that practically have been started out from the Commission giving this strong emphasis. The two very large projects, the flagship projects, which is Understanding the Brain and Graphene, also do the same. In Understanding the Brain, there's at least 6 or 7 disciplines that I know of that people are collaborating very strongly. So placing together different scientists has been a strong point so far in the Commission. And I'd like to make a comment and a suggestion for the Commission. Since FP6, FP7, and then we had Horizon 2020, there was a buzzword that the Commission used. In Horizon 2020, it was the word innovation. But if you want to think just a single word that you could describe how the next 7 years would be, all people thought, and that initiated from the Commission, to use the word innovation. Now we need to think of a new word for Horizon Europe 2027. Just a single word, maybe 1 or 2 words. And I think the word collaboration and interdisciplinarity might do the job. It might be a focus that people might want to use for the next 7 years. Nobody says that these have not been used in the past. The same is innovation. Innovation has been throughout the last 30 or 40 years that the Commission has been working in supporting programs. But if we want to use just a single word to focus the minds of people, I think that's a good word that the people in the Commission might want to use. Thank you.
Reaction to Paolo's word, yeah?
I mean, I like that very much, of course. And you know, I think you're right that we have focused on interdisciplinarity. The closer we get to the market, you know, so with all the FET stuff, you know, with developing stuff, we're closer to the market, not quite there, but closer, then we've done that. We've done that less at the level of fundamental science. And I think that's where we need now to think about more connections. And you talked about the brain studies, and of course that is, a lot of that is fundamental science too. But we need to do that more. And I think this is something that will come out naturally, particularly under Horizon Europe, because of the approach to the missions that are being designed now. And the whole purpose of the missions, of course, is to bring together people from different disciplines, but also people who are working in different parts of the program. Because in order to deliver a mission, you need fundamental science, you need the collaborative projects under the second pillar, you need the innovation funded by the European Innovation Council. And these are what will tie the science supported by the program together across the field. And there it's very important that the research infrastructures are in right at the start of those missions as service providers to the missions. You know, I think that's very clear, and I think that's a very good point that you've made today. Thank you.
I have 2 points to here. As you said, that I mean that often interdisciplinary is starting from the need. It comes either from the scientific question, the need which is broader than you are able to tackle by your own disciplinary, or it comes from the societal need. And that is the driver. And I think that the Horizon Europe can identify now with the missions and so on, these kind of teams, which really are the ones that you have to set up an interdisciplinary groups. On the other hand, why in the fundamental sciences we are not seeing that? Actually, we are seeing it, but they are called differently. Environmental science is not physics, chemistry, or biology, because it's already a interdisciplinary discipline of itself. So there's also in science, there's happening all the time evolvement, and they will have a new words. So in Acris, there's a lot of physicists working. They are calling themselves either environmental scientists or they are calling them environmental physicists. But they are not anymore calling them physicists as such. So that means that there's also something that we have to think about, the wording and languages, what we are developing in science and how that is already combining sciences.
So I'm looking for other contributors. Mitko?
Thank you very much. So
You can present yourself because I know you, but
my name is Dimitri Tonov. I'm from Institute for Nuclear Research and Nuclear Energy, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. I would like just to underline one fact which is very important. We have our roadmap, which is supporting infrastructures in Bulgaria, and also groups which are working on the international infrastructures. Last year we got financial support for this. This year is doubled this support. So this is very big step forward supporting Bulgarian scientists. And I would like to encourage the Ministry of Education and Science to continue in this way, because this is the right way in Bulgaria to have really young people which are sitting here to continue to do their work. So we are really participating in different parts of the roadmap, and we really expect that that it will continue in this way, because when we have participations in many big institutions and collaborations, but when we have not strong groups here in the country, and we have not infrastructure in the country, we are losing everything. So one should know this. If you cut the roads in the country, one cannot expect, let's say, trees to be in good shape and to have good science. So I strongly underline this fact. Double the money in 2 years, and I expect that the ministry will continue in this way, and this is the right way. So thank you.
Okay, we can ask Deputy Minister Enrique to transfer to the Council of Ministers that this forum recommend every year to double the funding from the previous year. So it is called geometrical progression, and we know what is the limit, which is the good one. So, Professor Obreski, please introduce yourself.
How to introduce myself? Okay, I'm in this field many years. I work in different areas, really appreciate it. Good synergy of very important things, how we can move together in the future. Due to your chair, due to the team. And I'll start with the most important, Alvin Tunis, who is leading the most important for me, digital research and innovation European Commission. You very well specified that we need holistic approach in order to reach the future. Holistic approach, if you want to the dictionaries, holistic requires a lot of knowledge from different areas. I didn't want to go through in details. On the other hand, the other partners immediately, not immediately, they very well recognize what does it mean for them holistic. I'll give some example from Finland. A lady very well presenting so many requirements, how they're managing to do together, but there is a problem here because we have to know how many thousand internet networks are below. We have to know how to fight all this availability, resiliences. We have to know how to do high availability, security, and so on and so on and so on. Many things in our hands. It's very difficult to manage. So many people, they will say, okay, it's for us, but it's too complex. It's a problem. So second thing, I do appreciate it, the neighbors from this country, from Bucharest, very well done as well, different areas are well considered, so many, but what is about computing? How computing requires. Again, a lot of requires, a lot of money, a lot of investments. And the very end, from Brazil, but actually landed in Bulgaria, right, for some way, right, so okay, acceptable way, of course, and then you very well would task it number 2 in the world for now. What is the most important now for IT? It is health, how to handle this health. And you are intuitively, you are going there, but you are missing one important things. For example, if your system is not enough secure, you are touching a very mission critical systems in there, and you want to go to the cloud anywhere. The entire cloud must be mission critical. You cannot handle this without IT. Thank you so much for your nice discussion.
Thank you very much, and I would like to suggest you to attend panel number 4, where big data will be discussed and cloud computing as well, and you will be together. Do you have a question to this panel or no? Professor Spasov, please introduce yourself, Tony.
Yes, very briefly. Thank you so much for your appreciation for the panel. I have two comments, very short. One is I have to say, I'm afraid I am not Brazilian. I come from Italy and BBMRI, although there are many Italians in Brazil, that's like the first country of emigration for Italy. But the other thing is, you pointed very nicely that collaboration, data is the key factor. When I talk to industry about accessing the samples, pieces of human beings in the fridge, right? They don't really care about the samples anymore. They want access to the data. They want us to do the genomic analysis that the gentleman was mentioning before and get access to the data. So your point is extremely valuable, and you're spot on, because even in scientific fields where you got hardcore samples, but they still want the data. Thanks.
Thank you. I transfer you to panel 4 as well. Anna, Professor Spassov.
Can I comment also here?
Yeah, the data. You know, data, very sensitive issue.
Yeah, I want to create some trust by giving an example, and of course I'm promoting my own field. So meteorological studies, and if you think about the weather forecast, so that has been on for decades already in the field of big data and combining online real-time observations to modeling capacity and providing services every day for millions in Europe. And I think that what is if you look the whole pathway of how that comes from the data to service every day, and what kind of security issues or what kind of technical issues you have, you kind of have an example where you can follow that what has been tackled. So I think that that's what we will see more and more in the different societal fields for the medicines or life sciences, also from the environmental or societal fields. So that is a good example.
Okay, now it's your turn, Professor Spassov.
Thank you. Professor Spassov, Sofia University, Faculty of Chemistry and Pharmacy. Is it okay? Now it's better. Sofia University, my specialty is chemistry. I'd like to share some thoughts, a little bit, maybe a little bit more general, but I think the issue was missing till now, and the expert panel is appropriate to give answer or some idea. The older generation here, many people know the time 30 years ago, we experienced really a period of competitive science. There was East and West Europe, and we used to compete in science and technology. And one of the successful points in this competition, one of the good side, was that we collaborated quite intensively. There were national programs which allowed to exchange scientists, short-term visits, training, and so on. This was something which was underlined also here, now when Europe is unified. But I think there should be national support of such more intensive exchange of experts, because all these infrastructures, they should not give the efficiency we need from them when the experts are sitting close to the instrument and waiting the industry to come and to ask for service, or to make a smaller team and solve some problem. This is one point. But second, thinking about taking the experience, or using my experience with the former time, I think that to go to such global problems, like how the European science, the research infrastructures may answer such global challenges, there should be the initiative should come from the European big industry or global, from the world big industry, to pose the right questions to be solved by the scientists. So the scientists, they have to be addressed by these issues. There should be a program which should come from the European Commission to say, okay, this electronics or the digital economy, but not that general. The industry should say what is important, and then these infrastructures or research associations, which we make centers of excellence, shared, distributed, and so on, then we can be much more efficient in our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very valuable comment. Do I miss someone you'd like?
Thank you very much indeed. I mean, I think Professor Spassov, I mean, that's a very important point, that European industry, or even global industry, has to be very much a part of this process. Whether industry should lead or whether we should allow industry to lead is maybe open to discussion. Because I think that industry to some extent has a problem in that its vision is relatively short term. Its goal is to make profit for its stakeholders, and it maybe looks 5 years ahead, possibly 10, possibly, but not many of them. And I think that this really has to be a collaboration between scientists, policymakers, and industry together to decide, where we need to invest. And just to give you one example, excuse me, just to give you one example of that, is the issue about renewable energies and energy storage. This is something which requires collaboration from many different disciplines, in terms of the science, but also a decision by policymakers and industry to work together and to invest together in new solutions, as is happening at the moment under the European Battery Alliance, for example. And this is not just about transport, which is where everybody's thinking about the electric vehicles and that sort of thing. It's also about the much bigger question of how do we store the energy which is produced from renewable sources. And so I think this is something that we have to do together. What we have seen is that European industry has not invested in battery technology. It's the Koreans, Chinese, Japanese that have really got the world leadership on that at the moment, and Europe has been left behind. So I think we need to have this discussion with the three poles, with the science, the industry, and the policymakers, in order to have a clear vision about where we should invest and what those future strategies should be.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank the panel and also Professor Spasso, because my question was basically to all of you and from Francesco's proposal concerning maybe not excluding participation of research infrastructures in Horizon Europe, but anyhow we put a lot of efforts to create them and to create ERIC. So I really believe that we should reopen the discussion, and especially when we are talking for mobility and exchange of human capital, I believe that we can't rely only on Marie Curie, or we can't rely only to compete in between ERICs, because basically first we have a huge oversubscription, unfortunately, in Marie Curie. It's not enough as a program. And basically I like this collaboration, not competitive approach. When it's for the human capital, basically I'm thinking that maybe we can think for exploring the possibility for a pilot program for European research infrastructures to build on skills agenda and circulation of human capital, because you see, we will double the budget every year. Thank you for your proposal. But at the end of the day, I'm also not working for you. I have to work also for other member states, and I want the, so to speak, they to work for me. So if I build my hubs here, I want to see circulation of talents here. So I believe that this is an important element that we should lobby in the New Horizon Europe program. For the business, quite relevant. Thank you very much. This is a challenge that I would appreciate very much next panels to discuss, but also maybe we during the break, because our problem in the smart specialization strategy was exactly this. Basically, the business didn't define us strategically or deeply where there are problems or challenges or emerging topics. The researchers, on the other hand, was not proactive to propose businesses how to solve their problems or how to do innovative products, because if you do this, basically you'll be businessmen, not researchers. So I believe that this is extremely important question, and I hope we will deal with during the conference. Annie will close, or not to take your role.
Sana, you still look like, no? It's okay. So we are exactly 12:30, 1 minute earlier, and the lunch is served. I know that it's very difficult to keep the attention in such kind of environment. Let me thank you for attending this session, and I would like very warmly to thank to the panelists for their valuable contributions, for their readiness to be with us. I do believe that the next panels will be as vivid as our own. The lunch 1 hour from now. That will